Are you looking for a way to scale your short-term rental business and buy more properties? Well, co-hosting might be the right fit for you. Welcome to the Cohost Coach podcast with Joe Roney. This episode of the Cohost Coach is brought to you by Savvy STR Agents. If you're looking to buy a short-term rental, then contact the STR Savvy Agent team at savvy.realty.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Cohost Coach. I am Joe Roney, and we are coming up on my 1-year anniversary of this podcast, and there is no one else I would rather have on that 1-year anniversary week than my brother from another mother, which E. Pawnee likes to say. But my first ever mastermind member, Austin Spitzenberger. Man, welcome.
Awesome, dude. Joe, this is round 2. I appreciate you having me on. I'm super excited to be here and jump in it with you. I've been a part of your mastermind now for 2 years, and I think it's been an incredible attribution, if you will, to my success and how far I've come. So I recommend anyone that's owns short-term rentals and looking to get into the space to definitely reach out to Joe. And he's been I would consider Joe a mentor of mine because he's helped me tremendously along the way. So thanks again, man, for having me on, and I'm excited to jump into it today, man.
Yeah. For those of you who saw the first episode when Austin was on almost a year ago now, we were in a different place, right? At that time I was still, kind of early stages growing my co-host business. I mean, doing pretty good. And you were starting the transition from co-hosting to potentially doing what you're doing now. But, a lot has changed in the past year. So, first and foremost, you got a little baby at home. So huge congrats on that, man. I love seeing all the family pics and what you got going on there.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. I love the little guy. It's such a blessing. And I don't know. I just never realized I could love something so much, and it's been such a cool thing to be a father, and I'm super blessed for that. But I was going to ask you, was I the first? Well, I wasn't the first guest on your show, was I?
Yes, you were.
Okay, I was. Awesome,
Yep.
Awesome. What do you know? What episode you're on now? Like roughly ballpark, how many you've put out?
I want to say you are episode 51. I think this is going to be episode 51.
Wow. Yeah, I feel like because we run, for anybody that doesn't know, we have our podcast also. It's called the Cohost Bros. And I feel like we started quite a bit before you, but you're almost producing. I think you're almost at the same amount of episodes. I think we may be like in the 60 or 70, but like,
Yeah.
You're trending right behind us, man. So that's awesome. You're really putting out episodes. What do you do, like one a week or?
Yep, just one a week. Every Wednesday we got a new one coming down the pipeline. And I had Matt Codd, your co-host bros, counterpart a few weeks ago on the podcast, and we were talking about kind of where he's at on views. We finally reached 2,500 downloads. I think you guys are just hit the 5,000 downloads, but it's like now that we're at that 1 year, like it's the trajectory is getting a lot more people. To see it. So it's been continuously increasing.
Yeah, I don't even honestly pay attention to our metrics. Like Matt does all that stuff. He does all the posting stuff. The reason I like the podcast and doing the podcast so much is that, access to people's time. Like even when we had you as a guest on our podcast, it was like, okay, well, I got an hour of Joe's time, and Joe's time is not free. Right. So I get to pick Joe's brain, and he gets to tell me like about his co-hosting program and all that good stuff. So the reason I like doing these podcasts is you build the platform for somebody else to come on, share their story. And what you do in turn is you get to kind of ask the questions you want to ask and be able to learn from it. So I encourage anyone to start a podcast, and not start a podcast to be a public figure, but not to be famous or anything like that. Really just to build a platform so you can learn from other people. Right. So
yeah.
I like doing it.
Yep. So, before we dive into property management and co-hosting, I do want to bring up one of the things that I've been super proud of you on is, and I'm reading this new book by Mike Kitko, which is Inner World, Outer World, which really talks about like your, spiritual personality and your, fitness and your health and your wellness and, putting it all together in business. And, you are a poster child for that over the last year from, eliminating alcohol, getting to the gym daily, getting your health in store, and really focusing on what's really important in life which is really inspiring. And I've been working on that myself, and watching you do what you do, I think that's really awesome. So, day in the life of Austin, what's that look like?
Day in the life. I think honestly, it comes down to what my priorities are. And I think business and building this business is just something that's a small part of my identity. It's fun. It's what I enjoy doing. I like being the STR guy and being that wealth of knowledge for people, but it's really not that important to me. It's just like business is kind of just a game, honestly, for me. What's more important to me is my physical health, like you mentioned, and family life. So I always prioritize those things first. And I've noticed that when those things are dialed in, my success in business is just a byproduct of those things. So I think eliminating alcohol, eliminating toxic friends, toxic relationships, stuff like that has all been great. I'd say that's been the most impactful thing for me in business. So I'd say, a day in the life. I always prioritize sleep. So usually I'm trying to be up by 5 or 6, but the main goal there is to get 8 hours, because if I'm running on 4 hours of sleep, I'm just going to make more mistakes. It's not ideal. With the baby, things have gotten a little more challenging, but I mean, at this point, we've got it pretty much dialed in. So I would say that, and then I'm very religious about my workouts. I do I go to the gym. I just kind of follow the 75 hard program ish. I do the 2 workouts a day. So I go to the gym every single day in the morning. And then after that, I start my day. And then towards the evening, once I start getting a little tired and fatigued, I'm like, okay, I'll either do an outdoor walk or I'll go run. So mostly that. And then everything in between is mostly dedicated to family, and then also like lazy H retreats. So I would say sandwiching about maybe 35 to 40 hours a week dedicated to growing the business. And, everything outside of that is more me trying to become the best version of myself so that I can be better in all other areas of business.
And I think that kind of spins off to, the big decision that you made, in the last year, from growing this co-host business yourself. And you were at 10 properties wearing all the hats, similar to what my wife and I are doing right now. And you had it all, right? You were, going out and getting new clients. You were onboarding clients. You were doing the bookkeeping. You're doing it all. And, it wasn't where you wanted to be. And you saw an opportunity to partner with somebody so you didn't have to wear all those hats and you could focus on your genius zone. So what did that transition look like?
Yeah, for sure. So as you alluded to, started with you a long time ago, and I decided I was going to do a co-hosting business. I set my business up as a co-host, and I got to about 10-ish properties. And then that's when, I feel like that's when things start to get harder and more challenging.
Yes.
Because I left my W-2 job because I was able to eliminate my W-2 income essentially in 1 year by following your program. So that goes back to that. But anyways, was able to eliminate my W-2 income and got really good at it, got in my market to where I was onboarding properties. And then I befriended people that were within my market, and they'd been friends with me for a while now. And they kind of just reached out to me and they asked, hey, would you be interested in merging companies? And basically, it got me to the point where I fixed a problem in their business, which was where I'm able to spend 80 to 90% of my time of what I'm good at. And instead of owning 100% of my own business, my own small business, I have partners in a much bigger business. So I really went from solopreneur to business partner. And I think it was great. It was a great move for me. And now my day is more dialed in to doing the things that I like to do. It's not necessarily answering owner calls at 10 o'clock at night, which you shouldn't do that anyways, because you should set boundaries. But regardless, that's part of this game and part of this business. Yep. There's no guest communication in my day-to-day anymore. And I enjoy just playing business owner a little bit more and focusing on what I'm really good at, which is building the business, helping, with systems and processes and stuff like that and how we run it. But for the most part, I'd say at least 70 to 80% of my time is dealing with people that are interested in working with us and business development related things. So transitioned, all of this happened just because I just went out on a limb and was like, hey, I'm really good at managing my own owned properties. I'm going to start a co-hosting business. I feel like that's how we all get into this property management business accidentally. And then, it ended up merging, and now I'm with Lazy H Retreats today. We've been with them almost at a year now. And I love my business partners. I love what I do from day to day. I think we have the people that are their owners in the business are very, very smart, and they're very up to date with what's going on in the industry. So I think we got the right people in the right seats to do something really good over a long period of time.
Yeah, and I think that's awesome. I mean, and you're continuing to grow organically, right? You're going out there, hitting the pavement, working on new acquisitions, meeting with people. On top of the Co-host Bros podcast, have other podcasts that you do that are not even STR related. Continuing to build your personal brand at the same time. So, you're a person that people see and look up to now. And it's funny, we were just talking about this, 2.5 years ago, you and I were at the STR Wealth Conference, and nobody, 2,000 people were there. How many people were there? Nobody knew who we were, you had a goal to build your personal brand. That was one of my goals. And man, now you're getting famous out there. People know you're at least in your area. And that's the important thing, right? You've built your personal brand in your market, and the people in your market know who you are, which is really what you want.
Yeah, absolutely. Same with you. I think the same thing with you is in Panama City Beach. Like, you're just owning that area, right? Like, you don't have to own all of Florida, but if you could be the best person in your market, that should be everyone's at least first milestone goal that's trying to do this is, wherever you're at, be the voice for that market, be at the events representing the short-term rental space and continuously learning and providing value for realtors and all that stuff, but don't try to spread out so much. Just be really, really good in one market. And if you focus on that, I mean, you can really, if you're really aggressive, I mean, you can be the guy in your market in a year or two.
Yep.
And the same thing happened with you in Panama City Beach, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's, focus on one market. There's enough business in one market. There's no reason to spread out your resources to this state and this state and this state. I mean, it just makes your logistics impossible. It makes, checking in on your properties impossible. And it just, for you to build a sustainable business, I just think it's really hard when you try to spread yourself too thin, where I know I was there 2 days this week. I flew down. I was able to visit like 6 properties while I was there that didn't have people in it for the couple of days that I was there, do some inspections, take care of some little things, meet a couple clients, and come back. I didn't have to say, oh, I'm going to fly to PCB today and this market tomorrow and go to this one the next day and be scattered all over the place. And I see that's one of the biggest mistakes of people getting into this co-hosting space is they take anything that comes their way because they're just trying to get properties right now. And it's important to say, okay, I need to grow properties. But, I think, one of the things that you did early on is write down your goals of what you really wanted. And you went after those properties in your market.
Yeah, it's tempting though, like it's tempting we get inquiries all the time about, hey, can you manage here? Can you manage there? And it's like, if you're not looking to at least add 10 to 15 properties in a market, you probably shouldn't go there because your operations and everything is going to struggle because of it, because you're not going to be able to have strong boots on the ground. You're not going to have that network of vendors. You're not going to be able to offer a really good service. So if you are going to go somewhere, plan to at least get 10 to 15 or have a revenue goal that you're like, hey, if I can do this much, it would be a profitable venture for me. Otherwise, you're going to go into an area, get one property, and then now you just are managing one property in one area. And maybe you were just tempted to do it. But at the end of the day, I feel like it's going to end up biting you if you do that versus having, being in one area and just being the best in that area where everyone knows you.
Yep. I mean, I meet people all the time and they're growing these, from co-hosting to property management. And now they have 30 properties here and they got 50 there and 50 there, which is great. But at what point do you become the Vacasa of the world that you no longer have a grip on your business and you're not able to provide those services and the revenue goals and all that stuff? And, I still am the firm believer is less is more. I want the least amount of properties that'll make me the most amount of money because I only go for quality. In the property management side, obviously you're going to take on some properties that don't necessarily meet those revenue goals to be able to get to the number that you want, which is okay. Everybody's got different goals. But like you said, if you're going into a market and you're only picking up 2 or 3 properties or 4 properties, it's going to be hard to have those boots on the ground that are going to dedicate their time to you because they have a bigger fish in the pond that they're making more money on.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, another concept is like, once you realize that, and I think you realize it pretty early on, the property that makes, 50,000 in gross revenue, it takes the exact same for the most part, amount of energy to manage than one that does 200.
Yep.
So when we realized that, we're like, okay, we're going to pivot ourselves as the luxury waterfront people in this market, and that's all we're going to do. So we've gone through a transition over this last year of managing some kind of mid-tier properties and taking the time now to add properties that are only of the highest tier and highest quality in our market, and kind of, when it makes sense, flushing out some of the properties that weren't as profitable, where we're managing, 65 listings, but we want to, get those listings that are making that amount of money that takes the same amount of time and energy to manage the 50K. So why do that when we can manage 150K, 200K property? And then that gives us more money to pour back into our business and become better operators. So yeah, that's kind of something we're going through now, but yeah, exactly.
And the same, I mean, and I look at it from the consumer side of it, right? The homeowner who's hiring a property manager, that homeowner that has that 50K property is not getting the same services as the homeowner that has the $200,000 a year property, because the property manager, no matter who you are, I don't care who you are in business, you are going to focus more of your time and effort on the property that is going to produce you the most amount of income, right? A little bit more revenue management, a little more listing optimization. Maybe you're doing Facebook ads, whatever it may be, because this is going to give you an ROI by investing in the marketing for this property. Where this property over here, if you're a property manager, it's not giving you that ROI. So a lot of times, and this is the reason why those properties that are 50K and under typically fail when they hire a property manager, is because most PMs are set it and forget it. Like, I ain't making much money on that. We're going to set it up. We're going to put the pricing, revenue management. Yeah, you're going to do a little bit here and there, but it's not going to give you that biggest impact. I mean, I'm not saying that your company does that, but I think it's human nature, in management companies.
Yeah, I think so. And that's why we're trying to eliminate the spread between how many 50K properties we manage and 150K properties we manage. So it's like, if our entire portfolio is 100, we want to do over 100K, then it's like, yeah, to your point, then we'll be hyper focused on every single listing because they're all valuable within our portfolio, versus kind of maybe, like you said, unintentionally neglecting the 50K property. And also, like, there's definitely, like, it doesn't, I don't need statistics. I don't need anyone to tell me otherwise. It is definitely true, and I can speak through experience, that for the most part, more often than not, the 50K client is more likely going to be associated with a more difficult owner that has more emotional attachment to the property. It is going to yield lower nightly rates. Therefore, you are going to have more guest-related issues, solving headaches. And there's a number of other things that come with that, like more damage claims are going to come with that. And it's not always the case, but these things kind of just follow suit. And then you start doing all the math. And then on top of that, you make the least amount of money. Yep. So you end up spending more time with these. So oftentimes, I would be even willing to say that the 200K property is less maintenance than the 50K property, because the owner is likely a high net worth individual that doesn't have time to focus on it and probably doesn't visit it for his family vacation. Right. Yep. And then the guest quality is there. So somebody that's paying $700 per night versus $200 per night is more often than not going to be a better quality guest that's not going to complain. And obviously there's outliers in these situations, but when you start adding these up, whenever you're just managing high-end luxury properties that cost a lot of money to stay there, you are eliminating a lot of the burden and the headache that comes with managing these mid-tier properties that, you don't realize it until you do it. Like I said, I don't have facts to back this. I just have experience to back this. But I just know you probably have examples where you maybe have a house that does 250 and you have a house that you took a long time ago that does 65. And you're like, there's different problems.
I can tell you, like, as you're talking, I'm thinking about my property owners and the properties that I'm managing, and it is spot on to a T based on which properties I have the most phone calls with, the most text messages with owners, and the most, I'm not going to say problems, but more, challenging, guests, owners, the whole work. So I think you're 100% spot on. The properties that I have that are doing 150, 200, 250K now, yes, we get the occasional guest issue, but most of them, man, they're I don't even hear a peep from them, on a lot of those guests, because they're staying in a luxury property where the owner is invested into an amazing experience. So they don't have much to complain about because they're coming into a completely rehab property for us. And yeah, it's definitely a lot less.
And it's also, I forgot to mention, like, from a review standpoint, it's very easy to stack 5-star reviews when the property's turnkey and awesome as it is.
Yeah.
It makes your job easier as a manager if all you have to do is have really kick-ass cleaners and boots on the ground that just do what they have to do to prepare the property. And like a lot of these, high-end luxury property managers, like the review scores are high on the OTAs. Yes, they're probably good operators, but like their properties organically cultivate 5-star reviews over and over and over again versus the 50K property. You got somebody that's coming in there that has, this is their one vacation for the year. So they have very high expectations and they're going to be very critical. Then you've got to fight for these reviews versus when your product is just turnkey 5 stars from the beginning. It's so much easier to cultivate these reviews, because I see managers all the time like, man, I look at other property managers, I look at what our competitors are doing. I know who's good, who's not good. And there's a correlation to some of these luxury managers that are really good. And I look at all their properties, photos are good, everything's good. I'm like, I really don't think that they're doing anything that we're not doing per se.
Yep.
Their property and review scores sell themselves. And yeah, they probably have good operations and good back end office. But at the same time, those properties, by starting at the luxury level, are already going to generate those 5-star reviews. So there's also the review component. Not to say you're going to sign a property that does $250K and the owner's always going to be great. They may still be a pain in the ass to work with. But when you zoom out and say, how much are they paying me this year? How much did they pay me?
Yeah.
That's what you look at, right? How much are you paying me? And then you look at the problem and you're like, okay, yeah, whatever we're going to do, we're going to bend over backwards. Yeah. But then you look at the client that's paying you $5,000 and they're taking up, hours every single week. And then you're like, this is not moving me or propelling me any farther in my business. And that's maybe a selfish way to think, but as a business owner, this is how you have to interpret these things, right?
Yeah. I mean, exactly. And, for the people that are out there that are just getting into co-hosting, that doesn't mean your first property is going to be a $200,000 a year property, right? We started with those 50K properties, right? Austin and I both, our first properties were those properties, but it got our foot in the door and it got our the way to propel and move up and step up into those more luxury properties. So, so for those of you that are out there thinking, oh, I'm only going to go after the 150K property for my first one, it's not going to work. I'm telling you, you gotta have that case study. You gotta build your brand. You gotta show them what you can do before you're going to get those luxury properties. So, it's okay to start with that 50K property. Just know that in 2 years, you're probably going to be saying goodbye to that client, because at that point, you're going to pick up those luxury ones.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough to have that mindset, but you have to go into it with that mindset. If you can provide a decent guest experience and you want to get into this, like, you can't go in there exactly what you said, because nobody's going to just hand you the keys to their property unless they're friends, family, or you just hit the jackpot. Like, it's possible, but you may never get started because your expectations are too high. And plus, like I always say, it's like, if you get the property, and we just keep saying 40, 50K, whatever the case may be, maybe it's a smaller condo and it does 25K. You need to do that, and you need to get your reps in on those properties. So when you do have the 150K property, you don't make the mistake on that property and lose it because you never made the mistakes from the beginning. So while I do say that I'm at a different point playing a different game, but me 2 years ago would say absolutely. And I think that's another problem people getting started. They make is they have expectations that are too high, but at the same time, they have done nothing to prove themselves yet. So you have to do that. And I did it, and I don't regret it. And it was able to get me to where I wanted to go a lot faster. So I definitely, to contradict myself, I think you should take lower properties because at least to get started, and then make the mistakes there. And you're still going to give them a great experience because you're going to focus all your attention because you only have a few properties. So even then the owner will get a great experience from you. So that's a great point too.
Yep. One lesson I'll also say that Austin and I both have learned is when you get a new property and you're super excited and you realize really quickly that the owner is going to be a major problem, cut ties quickly, right? And I think you fired an owner within 30 days. I've fired an owner within 30 days of working them. I think one of your first 2 or 3 properties you picked up and you're trying to get the momentum and get going, but you're like, ooh, time out. This one ain't going to work out.
Yeah, and you identify those red flags with time. So you're gonna have to go through that. You're gonna have to deal with the bad owner to realize what you don't want. And even today, like I talk to people every single day about our business, and it's still hard to figure out how people are going to react. But once you work with them, but identifying these red flags becomes easier and easier over time. You just kind of have to You got to ask the right questions. What are their expectations for the property? What do they think it should be making? So you establish revenue goals up front. Or is it a second home? Do you use it all the times a year? How close do you live to the property? There's a whole bunch of stuff. And usually the way it goes for me is when I'm taking these calls with people before we even talk about our business and what we do, we're also interviewing the owners too, right? So I'm having them explain to me about themselves. What do they do for a living? And I'm kind of feeling them out about what their business is. And usually by the end of the call, they'll have exposed or not exposed their red flags or green flags. And
Yeah.
after the call, you can be like, okay, they're probably not going to be that high maintenance of an owner. But until you go through that, you don't know if you don't know what a high maintenance owner is, you don't know to look for these things.
Yes.
So you have to just say yes, and you're going to get bad eggs, and then you know what bad eggs look like. But yeah, it's tough. I mean, and to be fair, the hospitality industry is not for the weak. It is a very hard industry. You are playing the middleman between the guest and the owner of the property, and it's very tough to manage those expectations. So if you're going through it and you just don't feel like you're doing anything right, I would say just for the most part, welcome to the octagon. Like that
Yeah.
is what it is, and there's always going to be a problem, and there's so much in this business that it's like it's tough. It is a very difficult industry.
Yeah.
But the thing is also, here's the thing. It's a very, very low barrier to entry. That's the one thing.
Yeah.
Like you don't really need any money. You don't need that much money to start this and get at this. So that's why there's a lot of people. But then once people realize how hard it is, I think the turnover rate of people that thinking they want to do this and doing it, there you see a lot of people a few years later that they're like not doing it anymore.
Oh yeah, I agree. I mean, there's, becoming a co-host, property manager, whatever you want to call it, it sounds amazing, right? And, and I can say like the first year, 3 to 4 properties, kind of easy peasy. It was a nice little summer. I made a little extra money. Then the next year with 8 properties, I was like, okay, I'm making some decent money, but, starting to see some of the time. And this year, we're at 14 properties right now. And I just, have joined another mastermind to be able to get more processes and stuff in place. I just hired Emil Sakal to take care of my revenue management, and I'm adding Host Buddy AI because I realized my summer was consumed with being on my phone, and I don't want to live that kind of life. But I had to get to this point to learn that, to know what systems. Now, you and I did it similar, where we just kind of jumped in, where our friend like Michael Dinwiddie, who said, I'm going to get all my systems in place. That way, when I'm there, I already have that, right? And I don't fault anyone for doing either which way. But if you're spending a year getting your systems in place, you're delaying getting into business. If you're can do it on the go, kind of how we did, it can work, but you're going to have to put in a lot of hours. I mean, like you said, this is not an easy business. It is definitely not passive. And, it is, you're giving yourself a job in a way until you get those systems in place, which is the position that we are in now.
Yeah, and for people that listening don't know Michael, but has he been on the show yet and shared his story and all that stuff? Okay,
yeah.
cool. So they can go listen to that episode. And he did have like a little bit of a different approach, but the same values aligned. That the fact is that like maybe he was a little slower to take action, but the point is he took the action.
Yes.
He just would rather just have his stuff dialed in a little bit better. Yes. Versus me, I'm the opposite, where it's borderline irresponsible, because I'm just like, dude, just send it. Like if I get an idea, I'm just like, okay, like I don't want to think about it anymore. Let's just start doing it.
Yes.
And then I make a lot of the mistakes that he probably avoided because he went that route. But the common denominator is he still got in the car and started driving. A lot of people don't even they just plan their trip, but they never go anywhere.
Yep. And the one thing I'll leave everyone is, if you're planning to do this and leave your W-2 job and build a co-hosting business, do it for a year or two to make sure you like it before you quit that job. Because like Austin said, it is not easy. Like this is not, a cakewalk, and you are on call 24/7. Yes, you're going to get a point where you have systems in place, and you're, one of the things I love about the short-term secrets mastermind is they teach you how to have that financial freedom to still have the right people in place to do it, which is amazing. Understand though that building it is going to take time, and it's not always sunshine and rainbows. So obviously you've been with Lazy H Retreats for a while, which is in Lake Canyon, Texas. Are you specifically in there, or have you guys expanded out any more than that?
So we manage a little bit on the coast, maybe about 10 listings, very selectively in like Port Aransas, Corpus Christi, Rockport area. And then the bulk of our listings are in Central Texas. Canyon Lake specifically is kind of it's pretty bad market, if I'm being honest. It's pretty brutal. It's not a great market, so we're actually not really looking to. It's got to be a sweet setup if we're going to take something there. But we're in Fredericksburg. Like the Hill Country, I think people don't realize about the Texas Hill Country is how much there is out here and how spread out. So there's a bunch of different in the Texas Hill Country. There's a bunch of different micro markets. Like you have Lake LBJ outside of Austin. You have Fredericksburg, you have Wimberley, and then where I live in New Braunfels, there's a river that runs right through it. So there's a bunch of river houses. So the Texas Hill Country, we're all in everything that I just listed, but
Yeah.
it's just very, very, spread out. Like, I don't know, you could go drive 60 miles and be in another micro market where there's a bunch of wineries and stuff like that. So to answer your question, yeah, for the bulk of it, we're trying to stay in the Texas Hill Country area because that's where we live and that's where we operate. So yeah.
I hear there's going to be a Universal Studios coming to Texas. Is that going to be closer to you or closer to Dallas?
Oh, I think that's in Dallas, but I actually have no
I
idea.
thought someone said it was going to be in Austin, so I was like, "Ooh, that could really bring some more business down there." But there's a chance it'll be in Dallas just because that's where the bigger population's going to be.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure.
Just more traffic drivers. That was one of the things when on my social media, if you follow me this week, I was talking about traffic drivers. Like, what are the things that bring your guests to the area? And you just named a bunch of them in New Braunfels, and of course, Schlitterbahn is one of the best water parks in the world. If you've never been, you definitely need to go. I went when I was like 12, when my brother was stationed at Fort Hood, and it was by far at that point the best water park I'd ever been, and that was 30 years ago that I was at that water park. So I have no doubt that it's probably expanded beyond then.
Yeah, I think it's probably about 10 minutes from my house. It'll take me 10 minutes to get there. I haven't been, but now that I've got a son, I'm sure that there's time that's going to be coming where I'm going to be spending some time there. I'm sure, but yeah.
Yep. Before you know it, man, time flies. You'll be dropping him off and being like, "All right, I'll pick you up at 6." And then shortly after that, he's gonna be like, "Hey, I'm picking up my buddies and we're going to the water park." Like it's trust me, my oldest is a junior in college, my youngest is a senior in high school, and I remember them where you were at like it was yesterday. So I am super excited about you growing your business. I love that you've built a business that you can be with your family, which I think is by far the most important thing that anyone can do, no matter what you're doing in life. You need to be able to build a business that gives you that time freedom to be able to be with your family and do the things you want to do. And super proud of you, man. Like, man, just I know we don't talk a ton, but I still consider you one of my best friends in this business because I have really learned a ton from you and really enjoyed watching you grow. So I appreciate you coming on. Any parting words on your Texas Hill Country or?
No, likewise, man. You've been a mentor to me, and I know how many people out there because I'm in the group message that you've impacted. And let's highlight you for a second. Like how many? And I know maybe you don't have a running count. Give me a ballpark in your co-hosting mastermind. It's a very small boutique one. You have your guidelines of who you take and who you don't take. From when we started to today, how many properties have you assisted people into growing their management? How many properties under management are in your co-host? And I would say when we started, it was definitely under 10.
When we started, it was two. I had two. And I was
And
the
you
only,
only, and I
and
had
I was
none,
the
and
only
nobody
one in the
else had any.
mastermind that had any, right?
Yeah.
And I want to say we're in the 90s. We might be over 100 total properties between people that have been in the mastermind. There's some people that have come in the mastermind for a while and then, moved on and done their own thing. So if I go back to those people, we're definitely over 100 properties, or 100 doors, maybe even more than that. I'll be honest. It's probably been 6, 8 months since I've even tried to, think about or counting that up. I love making the impact. I love watching people grow their business and, seeing other people succeed. I have the abundance mentality. Everybody can be successful. Everybody can go out there and win. I root for every single person, even my closest competitor in whatever industry it is. It doesn't matter. I still want them to win. If they sell 20 million, I want to sell 21, and that's okay. I still want to win, but I want them to win too, right? Like there's enough business out there for all of us.
Yeah, and I think the service that you provide, if people don't understand this is the shortcut here. Like you've got to pay, like you've got to be involved in these kind of things, and you need to pay for them because if you don't pay for them, you're not going to take them seriously. So you've got to join these programs, and it's going to cut it's going to cut the amount of work and learning that you have in half. And the more you spend on this, the less you're going to lose in mistakes anyway. So yeah, for you personally, for your mastermind group, when I was a part of it, from getting, I would say 0 to 10. I'm sure you probably have people that were faster than that, but 0 to 10 units under management in 1 year. I mean, that is crazy. Like I could have not done, I maybe could have done it by myself, but I mean, you were an instrumental piece in making that happen. And honestly, man, I'm just super blessed to be back on your show. And thank you again, man. We'll have to, I do agree that we got to do a better job. We got to hold each other accountable to chat more often, man.
Yep. We're both busy in different areas in our businesses, which is great, understandable. I might be coming to Texas later on this year. I've heard of a little workshop that's going to be happening down there. So I don't know if I'm coming down there or not, but if I do, I'm going to come meet up with you. But man, Austin, thank you so much again for joining me this week. If you are looking for property management in the Texas Hill Country, you definitely got to get a hold of Austin and the Lazy H Retreats. And thank you all for joining me this week on the Co-Host Coach. Next week, 1 year anniversary show officially. This is one of 3 with Austin. My mentor, Bill Faith, is coming on for the show next week, which is where I met Austin at Bill Faith's STR Wealth Conference. I joined his inner circle of what at that time was called the Accelerator Program. And same thing that Austin just said. You got to pay to be in the place with the people that are going to help you grow. And he's the person that took me to the next level that's able to let me help other people. So make sure you tune in next week as well with Bill Faith coming on. But thanks again, Austin. I will see you soon.
Thanks, Joe. See ya.